Hi everyone, welcome back to the shop. Now that I've got the shop pretty well set up, I can start building some actual projects. In this build series, we're going to build a bedside table. If you want to follow along with the build, I've drawn up a set of plans. Check out the link in the description below. The material I decided to use for this build is hard maple for the top, the legs, the face frames, and then maple plywood for the shelves and the carcass. And then for the drawer front, I decided to go with cherry just to give it a little accent feature. The tools I'll be using for this build are the TS55F, OF1400, MFK700. Then I'll be using the domino to do some of the joining, RO150, ETS EC150/3, the DTS400, CXS, the Carvex jigsaw, our Capex, Vaxis, and of course, CT48 dust extractor. Now that we've talked about the design, the material, and the tools, the next step is going to be to break down the hardwoods with the TS55, the guide rail, here at the mobile MFT cart. To make all these rips, I'll be using the TS55F, parallel guides, and a guide rail. If you have any more questions about using any of those, check out the link in the description. The material is 3/4 or 18 millimeters thick. For that, I'm going to be using the TS55F with the 42 tooth crosscut blade. It has the 1.8 millimeter kerf, so it'll be able to rip through this just fine, give me a nice, clean, glue-up ready edge. As you see me do on a previous build series, if I'm ripping narrow pieces, I'll just take one piece, slide it down underneath, push the other one forward, and then I've got support for the saw and the guide rail to make my next rip. With those two pieces ripped, I can go ahead and take it over to the Capex and cut them to length. I'm going to cut them just a little bit long, about 1 inch total, 1/2 inch on each side, and then when it's all assembled, I'll cross cut it with the TS55 to make it perfectly square. Now I have them all cut to rough length. Next step in the process is to get the boards laid out so that the grain looks the best. I try and get some of the grain patterns to match up. If you notice, we've got a inclusion here, and that'll add a little texture to the top. I'm gonna put that towards the back, so if I do put a lamp or something up there, that gets covered up. But everything else looks pretty good. Then once I have that lined up, I'll go ahead and draw a triangle. You can draw whatever you want on here, but that way, when I go to take it apart, put the glue on here, I know that when I put it back, all those lines need to match up exactly the way that I wanted it. For the glue up process, I could use the domino joiner to put a couple mortises in here to join those together. I don't need to in this case. Only time I'd use the domino is if these boards had a bow to them. But when I put glue on the long grain here and long grain here, clamp those up, that's gonna be stronger than any mortise and tenon or biscuit or any joint out there. Let's go ahead and get this top glued up. So now I've got this glued up and in clamps. We'll go ahead and set it off to the side. Next step in the process is to mill down the lumber for the legs. Material I'm using is 1.5 inches thick because the legs finished dimension is gonna be 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. But because of the flare at the bottom, I want them to be ripped slightly wider to 2 inches so I can use the template, the Carvex, and the router to get it to that final dimension. I'm still going to utilize the 42 tooth blade that comes with the TS55F. Because it is a thinner curved blade with the new blade design, it's going to allow me to get a nice clean cut, and the saw will have plenty of power to make it through. While this board is up here, I'm going to go ahead and use the same 1.5 inch thick material to rip down the decorative rails to match the solid rails on the front and the back. With all the rips done on the thicker stock, I can go ahead and set these aside for cross cuts later. Now I can focus on the 3/4 inch material that's going to act as the face frame material on the front and the back. Now I have all the maple ripped down to size, we can focus on shaping the legs. If you want to continue with the build, click here or check this out. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to be notified when we upload new content, click that notification bell.